Welcome to the San Francisco International Arts Festival 2019 interview series. Today we have artist Tomoko Momiyama interviewed by Nina Bazan Sakamoto.
Tomoko-san, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you also.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. I read that your works mediate communication between the people and the environment and invite the audience to listen to what's not really audible. And I was wondering how you do that and why you do that.
Well, I don't know if I actually succeed in mediating communication, but I do try to do that. And the reason is because I feel that since the beginning of our existence as humans, music existed. Music was a way of for us to understand relationships, and also a way of communication between people, but also between people and their environment, and also between people and what may be unknown to us. So there are like love songs for people to communicate love, lullabies for a mother to sing a baby to sleep. People used to sing together to go into the forest to forage fruits. There is also music for hunting when people were hunting in the savannas or in the forest. People play music to work in the field together, to go fish together. There are people who sing to their animals when they're cultivating the land together, or they're actually communicating to the fish inside the ocean. So things like that. And of course, there are music as prayers, to
Yes.
communicate with the spirits, with the higher beings, with what may be just unknown to us, and rituals and ceremonies and festivals. So because I work as a contemporary composer, I am interested in finding music that has that sort of a function in the society of this time.
Right.
And that's why I try to do it. And you also asked me how,
Yeah,
right?
how you do
So
that.
I think that in a way depends on the project, but always I think what's important for me is the act of listening. I think listening is a very important attitude in terms of engaging with the world. Sound has so much information that you can learn from. So listening to the neighbors, listening to the earth, listening to yourself. This is something that we innate. This is something that we can do innately, but I think sometimes we forget how to. So I try to invite people to sort of think about different ways of listening together. And also, this together is very important for me. Having a collective voice is more important than same like voicing my own self.
Right.
So yes, I always try to weave together different perspectives into work, so that it's not just my way of looking at things, but
Right.
inviting people, or my way of listening to things, by inviting people to find their ways of listening.
Right.
But maybe I'm not sure if it's clear enough.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was wondering, since you've traveled to many different countries, and I know that you've actually lived. You grew up in Japan, but lived in many different countries as well, and worked in several different amongst different cultures. And I was wondering, would you tell us about how your multicultural exposure affected your point of view? And if so, how?
Yeah, I really, recently I'm really realizing that having, because I moved to the US when I was 14 from Japan, and that was the first time for me to be out of where I was born. But I think that that experience of moving away from where I was really affected the way I look at things. very often now I'm asked why. So many of my projects, I work with people who are rather marginalized in the society, and people ask me why. And when I come to think of it, I really think it has a lot to do with my experience of living in the U.S. When I was 14, moving to the U.S. From Japan, because I realized that I can be a minority or majority, and it really it depends on the context, but anyone can be a minority or majority, when you just change the point of view.
Right.
Anyone can be a victim, anyone can be an aggressor. So when we are looking at some certain issue, I will always want to make sure that again, it's the same thing that I said in the first question, but not staying on one perspective, but
Right.
sort of weaving together different approaches, different ways of listening and understanding and thinking about things into work. Yes, so being in different contexts really helped me, I think, shape the way I make work.
Wow. And now you're here in San Francisco to work with the local environment here and interact with the people here during the International Arts Festival. So would you please tell us a little bit about the work you're creating now, which will be premiered as a part of the San Francisco International Arts Festival later this month?
So I'm actually really in the middle of creation right now.
Yeah.
I think I'll have the title in a few days.
Awesome.
Yeah. So actually I came here in January and February for preliminary research and networking. The piece is actually commissioned by the CTN, which stands for U.S. Japan Cultural Trade Network. And I was invited to create something site-specific in San Francisco with the people here. So in January and February, I met with different people. I was introduced to people in different, in like Japanese American communities and so on, but also people who worked at the Park Service, because the work takes place in Fort Mason.
Right.
And so on. So now I have a group of collaborators. I'm working with a visual artist. His name is Aisuke Kondo. He's from Japan, but his work, he's now creating a series of work that traces the footsteps of his great-grandfather, who was actually, who moved to the U.S. when he was also young, and then actually sent to the internment camp during the World War II. Yeah. And then I also am working with Yuriko Doi, who is sort of a pioneer of who introduced kyogen and no theater. It's a classical form of theater in Japan to the U.S. Art community, and created the Theater of Yugen. So she's a great theater artist and director, but also it's less known that she's an adventurist, and she spent 2 years of her younger in her 20s sailing in the Pacific, and she has this memoir in Japanese, and now she's actually translating this memoir that was published in Japanese into English. So I'm also working with her to perhaps quote some of these her writings. And then I'm also working with the seed scientist and activist, or rather maybe you can say agroecologist. Her name is Kana Koa Weaver, and she's also from Japan. So together with her, I will be sort of not investigating, but inviting the audience to think about the journeys of a seed.
Oh, wow.
So I've had the journey of a Japanese American person from before, who was sent to the internment camp, but also a journey of someone who sailed in the Pacific, and I also have a journey of a seed. And now I'm trying to see if I can also involve the perspectives of birds, because there are lots of migratory birds that pass through the bay. There's actually a highway called the Pacific Highway for the migratory birds to travel between the north and southern hemisphere. And the Bay Area is the bay actually is a resting spot for them. So there are many birds, and they're, to learn from them about how they navigate themselves in this long journey with the signs of the stars and the sun and the magnetic field of the earth and the sound and colors and so on. And I have a koto performer. Koto is a Japanese harp, sort of a Japanese harp, and she will be sort of together with me weaving these different narratives of a journey together. And all together, the audience will be invited to experience perhaps different ways of listening to the world, but also to themselves, and then together thinking about how do we orient ourselves in the sound, and how do we navigate ourselves with the sound together with each other. So I'm sure it still sounds very abstract, but it's going to be quite participatory. So it's I'm a music composer, so but I won't be just creating a concert for the audience to just sit in front of the stage and the audience wouldn't be just sitting in the audience seat and watching the stage, but more the audience will be invited to be an integral part of the performance, which moves the performance space will move from indoor to different sites in the outdoor. So
so those participants are part of the music
yes,
that you're
exactly.
creating.
Yes, exactly. So they'll be part of the music, and they'll be part of the collective listening. Collective active listening.
That's amazing that you're opening up this new perspective to people so they can experience the world in a new way.
I hope it can work that way. Yes, it should be interesting.
Wow, I'm very excited for it. So, thank you so much for, I'm very excited to check this out. And Tomoko Momiyama's new work is scheduled to take place at the Firehouse at Fort Mason Center for Arts and Culture from 7 p.m. on Thursday, May 23rd.
That's right.
Yeah, and from 3:30 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday, May 25th and the 26th.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be very windy. So, please come and prepare to be inside and outside with something to make you warm.
Yeah,
But it should be very fun.
Yeah, I'm very excited. And also, Tomoko Momiyama-san will be making a presentation at a symposium titled
That's
The Arts in the Environment at 2 p.m. on May 30th. At the Southside Theater on Fort Mason Center. So for details and tickets, please go to sfiaf.org. That's sfiaf.org. On a closely related thread, I'm producing and curating an art exhibit addressing our ecological crisis and the ongoing Fukushima nuclear issue. And actually, I will be choreographing a dance to Tomoko-san's music as well.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's going to be it's going to take us through a journey of time, and there's going to be a part where it's a nuclear apocalypse. So, but I'm blending that with revival and reviving our ancestors' eco-wisdom. So it's supposed to be a hopeful event. Please check it out at ecopoca.com, Mission Cultural Center, June 15th. So thank you so much.
Thank you also for the interview.
Thank you to Nina and Tomoko for joining us today. This year's festival runs from May 23rd to June 2nd. For tickets and more information, go to sfiaf.org or call 415-399-9554. We'll see you at the Fort Mason Center.